So one day I woke up and I realized that there are two kinds of people in the world. People who can design and people who do not yet know that they can design. And I've been a graphic designer for like years now, and this is coming from someone who used to be the worst at anything that concerns art or drawing or whatever. If I can make this and this and this and this and this and pretty much stuff that look like this, then definitely everybody can design. But I can promise you, only one thing separates the rookies from the veterans, and it's basically understanding what makes design beautiful. So that's the principles of design. So what makes a design beautiful? What makes a design nice? What makes a design nice to see? You're going on the road, you see an ad. Why does it look so appealing to see? Why does it look so calm? I'm going to be walking you through major tips that I learned that really helped me to become a better designer overall, and definitely should help you to become a better designer overall.
So have you ever looked at a design and felt lost? Like you're unsure where to look first? That's what happens when there's no emphasis. So emphasis basically is about directing attention. It tells the viewer what's important in the design. So psychologically, our eyes are drawn to like elements that stand out. So these are like, you see headlines on newspapers are larger than the body text, and call to action buttons are usually like more bold and colorful on websites. Designers use several techniques to create emphasis. They create emphasis by size, naturally bigger elements to attract more attention. They create emphasis by color. When you see a pop of color against, maybe a muted background, maybe you can see a gold button on a black background, or you can see an orange circle on a white background. You can create emphasis by contrast, light text on a dark background, or thick versus thin fonts, that creates emphasis. And also by placement, so central positioning or isolation makes something stand out. So without emphasis, your design lacks direction. So always ask, what's the first thing I want people to notice? Then make sure everything else supports that. So the second one is balance and alignment, and this is basically just the foundation of structure in your design. So balance and alignment are what makes a design feel stable. Like sometimes you see a design that just feels off, even if you can't explain why. Something just feels wrong with the design. That's because things aren't aligned properly, or the balance is basically just off. So there are two types of balance: symmetrical balance and asymmetrical balance. So symmetrical balance is where both sides are evenly weighted, like a centered logo with equal spacing around it, and asymmetrical is basically where things are uneven but still feels balanced. Like you put a large image on one side and then you put a small text on the other. So that's like a symmetrical balance. So alignment is just as important. When elements are properly aligned, your designs look instantly cleaner and more professional. That's why margins and grid exist anyway. Think of them as like something like invisible guides, something like that. That helps you like structure your design, right? To know exactly where the bounds that you have to design in, and also to get like your layouts even before you start working. So without them, things flow aimlessly and look very, very unintentional. So to make your design very intentional, make sure things are aligned. When you're doing especially social media designs, or maybe you're a small business owner trying to handle your own social media page by yourself, and you need to do some things, ensure alignment all the time. So create a line, wherever you're using to design, Microsoft Word, PowerPoint or whatever, there's always margin in those office files. But when you go to something like Canva, sometimes people don't use margin. So you need to put on your margin anytime you're designing, because it helps you to arrange your design way better than just leaving it blank and then you are using your head to figure out where it's straight, where it's not straight. For people that are not used to balance, that could just use auto alignment. So next time you're designing, don't just throw elements on the canvas, right? Ask yourself, does that align? Does it feel balanced? Your margin, spacing, and layout should all work together to create harmony for you. Next up, we have contrast. So basically, making elements pop. Contrast is basically what makes a design readable and engaging. So it's not just about like making things different, it's about making things different enough to stand out. So without contrast, everything just blends together and nothing grabs your attention. So there are 5 key ways contrast happens in a design. So something very similar to emphasis, right? But this is just a little bit different. So first way to create contrast is by size, obviously. So a large heading next to a small text instantly creates visual hierarchy and a contrast, right? So you can see both elements, but they are not impeding on each other. So that's basically what defines good contrast. So 2, by type. So sometimes you see ads where there's like a very huge text up and a small text down. So that's basically by type. So and sometimes also you see maybe a heading design like this, and they just change one particular font in between here. So maybe one is thin, one is fat, just to create some sort of contrast to let you move your eyes there and pick out that word that's sort of important. So by type, so basically mixing bold and heavy fonts with thin fonts, or elegant ones, sort of add some sort of interest. So for color, high contrast, like black and white, makes text very easy to read, while low contrast, some low contrast colors, like maybe you put like yellow on white, for example, that will work. So you need to pick colors that pop out of each other, they don't impede on each other's shine, basically, something like that. So also you can create contrast by texture. So flat versus textured elements, create depth. So you could also create contrast by shape. So a singular circular element, for example, maybe you put a circle here in the midst of like boxes, it definitely drives your attention, right? Or you see a design that looks like this, or you see a design that looks like this. You see different shapes moving around, triangle, square, circle. So all those different things create contrast. So good contrast is basically the difference between a design that works and one that gets ignored. So pay attention to contrast. So in terms of proportion, trying to keep things at scale. So proportion is about scale, basically, how elements relate to each other in size. So good proportion ensures that elements feel like they belong together. That's why designers use like grid and ratios to help them maintain some form of structure. So now for repetition. So repetition is about consistency, and consistency. So repetition basically builds consistency. So imagine if a brand used like different fonts and colors on every single design. That would be absolutely chaotic, right? Repetition ensures that your design and branding feels cohesive and memorable. So it applies to more than just branding, basically. In layouts, like repeating elements like icons, colors, or shapes creates rhythm. So even though the human mind gets bored when you have to keep seeing the same thing all the time, when things come in rhythm, like there's different elements, but there's also some form of repetition within those different elements. It sort of has a rhythm. So it's just like music, for example. There's different verses, but there's a chorus that keeps coming back. If a song doesn't have a chorus and then the artist just keeps singing different things throughout the entire song, that song's going to be weird. But there's always a chorus and a hook, just so there's always something to latch onto. There's always some sort of repetition to harmonize the entire song. So that's basically how consistency works in art, in music, in design, anywhere. So you have to like sometimes repeat things to sort of make them come together, if that makes sense. Next up is movement. So this is all about guiding the viewer's eyes. So movement in design isn't about animation, it's about how the viewer's eye travels through your layout. So a good design guides the eye smoothly from a point to another, while a bad design feels chaotic and confusing. So how do we create movement? So you can create movement through lines and shapes. Diagonal elements naturally create a sense of flow. You can create movement through hierarchy. Bigger, bolder elements attract the eye first. You can create movement through spacing and direction. So elements placed in a structured way lead the eye naturally, just like reading from left to right. Do you get? So think of it like storytelling. Your design should have a beginning, middle, and end, guiding the viewer's eyes through the most important elements first. Do you get? So always put your viewer in mind and think of their visual journey. So next up we have white space, and this is probably the last one that I'll be teaching. So white space, or negative space as often called, is something that is often overlooked by a lot of people. They just want to like cramp a lot of information. Sometimes when clients give me some drama, like they give me like a lot of information, like calm down, I need space in this design. You can't just like make sure all this information on one page. Do you understand? So we need so white space or negative space is one of the most powerful design tools. So it's not just like empty spaces, it's like active space that helps separate elements and make design easy to navigate. Do you get? So it's basically the space in between every single element, the space around each element. That's basically what white space is about in like simple terms. So look at luxury branding. You ever notice why high-end brands use minimal spacious designs? Because white space gives a sense of elegance, clarity, and like it helps you just focus. I don't know, it's just beautiful. It allows elements to breathe and prevent visual clutter, basically. So next time you're designing, resist the urge to like fill every inch with content. More isn't always better. You get less is more, as they always say. So sometimes you don't need to add something that's not important. So look at every single thing you have for your design. Think of the functionality of it. Is there something here that isn't that important, or is there something here that is not serving any purpose? You have to be intentional with every single element you put on your board. So if something isn't serving your purpose, you hack it off. So and ensure that there's enough spacing in between your elements. So if you always put these 7 principles I'm giving you in mind anytime you're trying to make a design, you're going to see the world of difference in every single thing you make. So and whatever app you're using, it doesn't matter whatever app you're using. You might be using Microsoft Word, you might be using Canva, any app you find yourself on that you can draw a text and you can draw a box, you can do graphic design on that app. And every single app you use, you need to use the same graphic design principles to make the layout look beautiful and aesthetically pleasing to look at all the time. So you definitely have a lot to gain if you subscribe to this channel, especially if you want to become a graphic designer or you just want to learn how to design generally. So yeah, see you next time.